Hi, my name is Wayne Dyer.
I want to share with you this one exercise that I learned, that I have been practicing, and that is very profound. If you want the qualities of your higher self, remember, I'm speaking here now about God, the God within you, the almighty, omniscient person that you are, the energy that is your birthright, but you have lost sight of because of your coming to believe things to be true, which only take you to places called ordinary. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into your lower self, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. Now, I'll be speaking in the last part of tonight's talk about the power of the imagination. It's the greatest gift you've ever been given. And everything that exists in the physical world once started in someone's imagination, including you. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into this lower self, where you can become this almighty, omniscient, omnipotent being, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. You are down here on earth. Using your imagination, you focus on your higher self in the world above and picture him looking down at you. In other words, from that higher level, you look down and see yourself and the imperfect conditions in which you live. Keeping this thought before you, you set in motion a current, an invisible current that flows between the self that is above and the self that is below. In this way, you are restoring the vital link between you. For from down here, you are thinking that you are up there, and up there, you are conscious that you are down here, thinking of yourself up above. It's very difficult to explain this clearly, as you can see. At the same time, you divide yourself, you also unify yourself. You divide yourself into two, one above and one below. The one above, your true self, watches the one below as he meditates on that self above. And in this way, an extraordinary current is established between the two, making it possible for your superconscious to develop. You stay with your eyes closed, conscious at the same time that you are there in your room, a living, thinking being, while your all-powerful, omniscient higher self above sees his reflection and recognizes himself in you. Seeing himself, he smiles at you, perhaps even laughs a little. And you watch from below and begin to get to know him while he watches you from above. In this way, the gulf between the higher and the lower poles of your being begin to narrow until one day it disappears and they are fused into one. When this happens, your lower self no longer exists. That lower self, the ego, which is not a true reality, disappears. And all that is left is your real higher self. No more weakness, no more discouragement, no more darkness. You become omniscient, immortal, and eternal. Now, it sounds like, well, I'll just go ahead and do that, and it's all going to just work out for me. But what I'm really saying here is that it's an exercise that if you begin to practice it for about 30 minutes a day in your meditation and begin to picture this higher part of you, your origination place, the spark of God that is you, where you came from. Not just because I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective, but whoever the quantum physicists are that are watching and listening tonight, whoever they are as well, they all know that it is an invisible field of energy from which all things originate, to which all things return. That is your essence. It is your true self. And if you can just get that higher self to become 1 or 2 or 3% of who you are, you can begin to access through your intuition the kinds of things that your false self doesn't allow. Muktananda called the ego the false self because in those first 9 months of your existence, from that spark of God that you were, when everything that you needed for this physical journey was handled in there in this miraculous way that is just too profound and too mysterious for us even to begin to fathom, isn't it? It's the great mystery, isn't it? That's what the Tao teaches us. Live the mystery. Don't be afraid to wander into the unknown. Don't be afraid to know that this music that you came here to play is calling you. It's begging you. You can't fulfill somebody else's dharma. You can't do it the way your family wants you to do it. You can't do it the way they did it before. You have to go within and know that this is my calling. Abraham Maslow taught me when I was a young doctoral student, you must learn to be independent of the good opinion of other people. You must learn to detach yourself from outcome. That's what self-actualizing people do. Those are the two most important qualities. Detachment from outcome. You don't do what you do because of what you're going to make or what kind of rewards you're going to get or how people are going to like you. You do what you do because it's your passion, because you won't allow anything else to be but what you feel inside. It's what I used to call being a scurvy elephant.
How can you surrender and let go and become detached from the outcome and the stuff that you seek after in your life? How can you do that and still have the things that you want come into your life? How does that paradox work? One of the things that I have learned in my own speaking is to let go of the outcome, to be unconcerned with the reaction and what's in it for me, and indeed to just surrender. And in my meditation before I speak, I always repeat the mantra endlessly over and over again, and I find myself doing this more and more in my life, and something that I urge you to do. I ask the question, how may I serve? Just, how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? There are 1,000 people there. How may I serve them? It's like getting the focus off of what's in it for me and how do I look and whether I say the right thing and whether people like what I say and whether they buy things that I have or whatever. And instead, like letting all of that go. Just letting that go. And getting the focus of your life, the centeredness of your life on the business of serving. And the irony of it is that when you get to that point where you're able to do it and let go of that outcome, all of the stuff that you chased after and worked so hard for and figured you had to have back here begins to chase after you and show up in your life. And you're no longer on the treadmill. It's like a surrendering. And so that's what I do when I come on stage. And it's almost as if God says to me, it's like, as long as you stay on purpose, you'll never stumble. And you'll know what to say. And when you get off of that, and you shift your alignment away from that, then you won't be able to do what you're doing. And the same thing happened in the writing of this Real Magic. For the first time in my life, I experienced what I have come to call automatic writing, where I left home and went off to Maui and sat down and in 8 weeks' time just produced this book without any struggle whatsoever, not one moment of struggle. And it just seemed to be there, and it seemed to flow. And I can type, like when I sit down and type a letter or a contract or anything that I might have to put out on a typewriter, I'm one of these kind of typists. And I just look around. I can do it rather quickly, but I have never had the formal training in typing. But when I write at this little typewriter, I can go along and close my eyes and write at 70 and 80 words a minute when you get into that automatic. And I can't tell you how I do that, because I had completely let go. And I wasn't concerned with whether the editors liked it, how it came out, whether or not it was a bestseller, whether people were going to buy it, whether the reviews were going to be. Nothing. It was like very, very peaceful. And it's a very peaceful place that I'm asking you to look at and get to in your own life.
I learned to do it about 10 years ago when I really honed this, and that was when I was speaking in Houston. There were about 3,500 people who had all paid a lot of money to come and hear me, and it was an evening with Wayne Dyer. And I had all my notes all arranged in exactly the way I wanted to, and everything was just exactly perfect. I was backstage doing the pacing that you do before you go on, and the meditating and the right. breathing, and just getting yourself relaxed and the sort of divine guidance that you're seeking. And I realized that I didn't have my notes. They were gone.
Yes.
And they were back in the hotel room, which was 30 minutes away, and I was going on in 10 minutes. So I walked out on stage without any notes for the first time, and I surrendered. In that 10-minute period of time, I just said, all right, you know what you're doing, and you know how to do it, and you're good at this, and you're here for a reason, and there are 3,501 people in this room, and you're the one who's speaking, and 3,500 have paid to come and hear you. There must be a reason for that, and so get on purpose, get off of your outcome, get off of how well you do, get off of how much money you're being paid, get off of all of that, and get on to what are you here for?
Yeah.
And you're here to improve the quality of life for somebody else. That's all you can do. When you leave this planet, the measure of your life won't be in what you accumulated. Yeah. It will be in what you gave. Since you can't get anything anyway, it's in giving. So I surrendered, and that was the beginning for me of surrendering. I've never used notes since in my life. It's not that I'm not prepared. I meditate before, and I know what I want to do.
See, what you have to learn is that I read a wonderful line when I was down in Australia by an actress who was talking, and she concluded it with, she said, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. See, God's plan works, essentially, and yours doesn't. Basically. It's like becoming a spiritual being really means shifting away from your plans and allowing yourself into this divine perfection.
Here are some of the signposts of a new direction. Your ego is less insistent on having attention placed on it. There was a time when I could dominate every conversation, no matter where I was, no matter who I was with, and if I was with my wife or whatever. And I could be glib and verbal and use quotations and talk and get people to gather around and endlessly take the spotlight. Today I find myself hardly ever talking. I just love to sit back and watch and listen and observe and notice. Secondly, doing less, not more. Letting go and letting God becomes easier for you. Practicing non-interference. Boy, when I was writing Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life and living that part of the Tao, I remember reading one of the verses and thinking, it says, great sages do nothing, and because they do nothing, they get so much more done. And I just couldn't wrap my head around that, or my consciousness around that I could do less and get more done. I mean, we've grown up in a world where you have to go out and do more in order to get more. It says in the Tao, great sages accomplish great things by thinking small rather than thinking big. That a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And the great sage just thinks of the single step and where they are. You get to a place where you're not trying so hard, but you're not failing at anything. You're just producing results, and you're not willing to judge the results, and it gets easier. Trying less. You begin to shun the spotlight. You begin to practice what the Tao taught me to practice, which is radical humility. Not taking credit, giving other people credit, not needing to have other people tell you how wonderful you are. Just simply practicing what the ocean teaches us. Stay low and let everything come to you. Unity begins to replace separation. Conflict then is eliminated. Remember, the mind at war with itself can never know God. Because knowing God means knowing oneness. And oneness means nothing to be in conflict with. You cannot be in conflict when you have oneness. There's only one. and we begin to see ourselves as connected to everything. Now, also on this voyage of two, and I just have to speak a few moments about this, it is what I call the fall. Virtually every spiritual advance that I've ever made in my life has been preceded by a fall of some kind or another. And I think you can expect a fall. And when you're in one, when you're in a low point, when you're struggling, the Tao says that built into all misfortune is good fortune. And built into all good fortune is misfortune. So that when you're in a place of misfortune, low, your relationship isn't working, the finances aren't coming, the news about your body, the medical diagnosis, things aren't the way you want them to be, all of the falls. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had a wonderful quote. She said, if you shield the mountain from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. So the idea really isn't to try to eliminate the storms of your life. The idea is to learn how to sing in the rain, how to dance in the storms, and be willing to go into the storm. And the final thing about this journey back, I talked about it in the film, it's called the quantum moments. And these are moments in our lives that really shift us, and they almost always come after a fall. So you have the fall, that as you have one of these falls, what you are doing is you are generating energy to propel yourself over the bar. If you remember in the film, I spoke about the night that I had one of the most shameful nights of my life, when I required my wife and our 5 little children, we had 5 children in 8 years, and they had closed the bar at the restaurant because someone the night before had served someone underage, and they wouldn't give me a beer with my meal. And I made everybody in the family be inconvenienced and get up and go to another restaurant because I was upset because I couldn't have my beer. Now that's a jerk. That's shameful behavior. It's hard for me to even admit it, but I'm better than I used to be. Now I'd only make them go 2 blocks instead of 3. No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And that morning, after that fall provided me with the energy. I began to think about myself. And what was I doing? How long has it been, Wayne, since you've gone without having a beer in the evening? I couldn't think of a day in the previous 2 decades. And what are you doing making your wife, who's had 5 children with you in 8 years, move? And you know what it means to move little children like that? You know, with all of the things that you have to take and put them in the cars and the seat belts and all of that, and none of it mattered to me. But that fall allowed me probably to be alive today. Because if I would have kept drinking the way I was, I wouldn't be alive today. It was going to kill me because alcohol's like sugar. I mean, and it's loaded with sugar, by the way. So these falls, when you have one, start looking for the energy and start seeing what it can bring to you as you move back.
I have a very strong belief that everything that comes into your life is supposed to, and every condition of your life is part of the perfection of it, and that there's a blessing in all of it, and that there are no accidents, that it's a perfect, absolutely, totally perfect universe. Everybody that you meet for a reason. Everybody you're sitting next to, you're there for a reason. You can either take advantage of it or not. You have choices to make throughout it all. At the same moment, there's an opportunity in it, and I never look back with anything but gratitude for all that was handed to me, because I learned firsthand as a very young boy how to be self-reliant, how to take responsibility for myself, how not to blame other people for it, and to find something positive in it, and always did. Think of yourself as connected to and a part of it all, rather than someone who is being victimized or slowed down or abused by, or here it happens again. It's all part of the perfection of it all. That's a very nice, enlightening place to get to. It really slows you down. And it doesn't take away your ability to make choices. It takes away your wanting the world to be as you think it should be instead of as it is. That's what defines neurotic. That's what neurotic really means. To be wanting the world to be as you are rather than as it is. And for you to process it exactly the way it is.
And if you see everybody as a teacher, then you ask yourself, what do I have to learn here? And it's like in that second that you're just about to be angry and go around and maybe even have a head-on collision or whatever, or maybe nothing, but still in a hurry, maybe at that moment that person is there. That person is there to teach you to slow down a little bit. Whenever you have a thought of, I don't have enough coming into my life. Things aren't the way I would like them to be. I don't have enough money coming in. I don't have the right kind of relationship. That's all coming from a place of fear and a place of lack. When what I've learned to do is just go within and say, I am exactly the way I'm supposed to be, and everything that has ever shown up in my life showed up exactly on time, the same way the sun shows up on time every morning and the moon shows up every evening on time, that everything in this universe is absolutely perfect. There are no accidents in it. And the only choices that I have are how I'm going to process the things that have showed up in my life, the father that I had, the resentments that I had with them. I no longer have to have those.
So the lowest stage of enlightenment is that stage where you look back on your life and you say, now I know why I had to be an alcoholic for those years. And now I know why I had to be in that relationship with my ex-wife. And now I know why I had to go through the bankruptcy. Or now I know why I had to create that cancer. Or that heart attack. Or whatever it was that taught me how to transcend that self-defeating behavior that I used to think I couldn't do anything about. You see? The second stage of enlightenment is when things like this are happening to you. You know there's a blessing in it. There's an opportunity in it while it's happening. You're smoking, and you know that there's something in this for me. You're going through a relationship difficulty, or you're having an accident, or you've gone through a series of illnesses. Whatever it may be that seems to be a struggle for you in your life, while it's happening, you're looking constantly for what's in it for me? What can I get out of this? There's no mistakes out there. It's all being created for some reason. So that's the second stage. And that minimizes the suffering. Because you're looking for what's in it for you. How can I get something out of that? So that the person cutting you off, the way your children talk, whatever, you're not instantly threatened by that. You're constantly aware that these people are behaving that when there's something in this for me to learn. And I think I'll get it now. I think I'll get it now. Instead of waiting 6 years, suffering through it, and then seeing it. But there's a higher stage. It's the highest stage. In Zen, they call it, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's the same. The only difference is that you're doing it from a totally new perspective of thought. And this dimension, the highest stage, what enlightenment really is, it's when you're back home again. Instead of pulling away from yourself, you're towards yourself. And this is what it is. You are able to get out in front of it. Play it out in the dimension of thought. And decide for yourself whether it's even necessary to bring it into form.
You go from being the actor in your life, who is being directed by the events, the circumstances, and the other people in your life, to being the director at the second stage. And in the third stage, you become the producer of your life.
Love is the truest antidote to fear and doubt. When you feel unconditional love for yourself as a divine creation who is here with a purpose, you release all doubt and fear concerning yourself and your place in the world. Therefore, when you experience a moment of fear and doubt, give yourself a portion of mental love and remind yourself that you are a holy creation. As you practice sending yourself love, that becomes what you have to give away. And it is also true that the more love you contain, the less room you have for the energy of fear and doubt. The banishment of doubt from your life forever will put you in touch with a mysterious power that previously had been obscured. I encourage you to let go of the doubt that you were so carefully nurtured on and let in a new knowing. The famous Native American Sitting Bull described this power in the following words. He says, "Behold, my brothers, the spring has come. The earth has received the embraces of the sun, and we shall soon see the results of that love. Every seed is awakened, and so has all animal life. It is through this mysterious power that we too have our being." Notice that Sitting Bull refers to this power as love. That love within all things is also within you. Send doubt out of your consciousness and welcome knowing. This first key to higher awareness is also spoken of in the Bible, in Deuteronomy 30, verse 14. It is something very near to you, already in your mouths and in your hearts. You have only to carry it out. I leave the rest up to you. You have only to banish the doubt and carry it out. Banishing the doubt is the first of the 4 keys to higher awareness. The second is called cultivating the witness. There are many benefits from assuming this witness stance. I ask you to shift your self-perception and cultivate a higher aspect of yourself known as the compassionate witness. Rather than think of yourself as a human being who has thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, begin practicing stepping outside of yourself. So what does it mean to be the witness? Take a moment to reflect on how you view yourself. As you do this, think of what you might mean if you said, "I was thinking to myself." You'll find that the phrase implies that there are 2 people rather than one. One person is the I doing the thinking. The other person is the self receiving the thinker's thoughts. The I is talking to the self, which, when you really examine your inner dialogue, you know you do hundreds of times each day. When you cultivate the witness, you remove yourself from both the I and the self position. Here, from an invisible space outside of your physical body, the witness is detached from your emotions and feelings and behaviors. Here, the witness lovingly watches your entire life transpire. So why become the witness? In my world, nothing ever goes wrong. These words were spoken by Nisargadatta Maharaj in response to an interviewer who, in exasperation, asked Maharaj to talk about the problems in his life. It is for me the single most powerful affirmation I have ever heard. I use it every day of my life, and I have it posted strategically in my office as a daily reminder of its supreme value in my life. In my world, nothing ever goes wrong. Within all of us is the eternal, changeless dimension of our higher spiritual selves. This is the invisible I that talks to the physical self. This is the thinker of the thought. This compassionate observer is not revealed with scientific instruments and doesn't appear on autopsy reports. When you are genuinely able to live in that spiritual domain of the witness, then nothing goes wrong because wrong is not possible for the witness. It is all in order. Nothing is questioned from that perspective. It is like being able to live in heaven where eternity and the soul are at the same time that you are within the physical body. But in this space, the body is not the focal point of existence. I am not suggesting that you need to sit in an ashram and discard all of your physical possessions in order to find this key to higher awareness, although that certainly is a possibility. Instead, I want you to consider how these words of nothing ever going wrong, of having no problems, and of living in a world of the changeless apply to your spiritual awakening. There is so much to learn from these ideas. Cultivating the witness will put you on the path where your higher, sacred self begins to influence your physical, ego self instead of the other way around. As Nisargadatta Maharaj puts it, give it your full attention. Examine it with loving care, and you will discover heights and depths of being which you did not dream of, engrossed as you are in your puny image of yourself. These are startling words describing the power and the value of cultivating the witness. The ordinary way of attachment and suffering can be changed when you learn to access and cultivate the witness attitude of detachment and observation. In order to cultivate your witness, you need to learn to observe your reactions in order to go beyond them. It is the going beyond that is the crux of the sacred quest. True awareness is a state of pure witnessing, without any attempt to fix or change that which is being witnessed. It is a kind of non-judgmental love that, by itself, is healing. Even if what you observe is sickness or infirmity, the compassionate witness notes the trouble spots and observes them with unconditional love. The absence of judgment in the act of observation itself contributes the appropriate energy of love that the situation needs. The more you can practice witnessing in this way, the more you will find that the mere act of non-judgmental witnessing will keep your life moving on its sacred quest. The mechanics of creation are such that where you place your loving attention and maintain it is where the wave begins making the shift from nowhere to now here.
Learning to think from the end rather than about the end. People say, well, you're so productive, you get so much done, you've written so many books, you've done so many CDs, you've done all these PBS shows, you've done movies, you've done... And you know what? I basically think I screw off a lot. I don't really think I do that much at all. I mean, you can't even imagine. I mean, I take time to exercise 3.5 to 4 hours every single day of my life. Every day. My kids will tell you. I swim in the ocean every day. I do yoga for 90 minutes almost every single day of the week. I walk at minimum an hour and a half every day of power walking on top of all of the other things. It's hard for me to imagine myself not doing, because my imagination is so strong and such a part of what it is that is my life, that how it manifests isn't nearly as significant as that I keep my imagination sharp and focused. And I want to read you a little bit of Neville. It's a book, Moving from Desire to Wishes Fulfilled, by Neville. The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. It cannot be emphasized too much that by creating an ideal within your mental sphere, by assuming that you are already that ideal, you identify yourself with it and thereby transform yourself into its image. Thinking from the ideal instead of thinking of the ideal. Thinking from the ideal instead of thinking of the ideal. Every state is already there as mere possibilities, as long as we think of them, but as overpoweringly real when we think from them. This was called by the ancient teachers subjection to the will of God, or resting in the Lord. And the only true test of resting in the Lord is that all who do rest are inevitably transformed into the image of that in which they rest. You become according to your resigned will, and your resigned will is your concept of yourself and all that you consent to and accept as true. You, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled and continuing therein, take upon yourself the results of that state. Not assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are ever free of the results. The truth that sets you free is that you can experience in imagination what you desire to experience in reality, and by maintaining this experience in imagination, your desire will and must become an actuality. Again, the truth that sets you free is that you can experience in your imagination what you desire to experience in reality. And by maintaining this experience in imagination, your desire will become an actuality. Now, all I can say to you about that is that it really works. The first part of this is the power of your imagination. The second part of what I'm speaking about here is thinking from the end. The third concept, after thinking from the end, is these words. If you're taking notes, I want you to really have them underlined. These are the words that Neville has spoken that really resonated with me. He said, you must learn to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Whatever it is that you have in your imagination, this is the only tool that you have for bringing it into reality, for hardening it from a thought to perhaps first an image, and then a condition, and then an event, and then an object, that Your imagination is the only place that you can make all of this happen. If it's the weight that you want to lose, if it's the addiction that you want to overcome, if it's the relationship you'd like to fix, whatever it is you'd like to create, he gives some very specific examples of how this can work. Assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled means that in your imagination, you have created what it is, what you have imagined for yourself. You think now from that end rather than about that end. And now you assume the feeling of that wish being fulfilled. And where do you experience feelings? In your body. That's what the body is. It's the reservoir of feelings. They show up in your flushing. They show up when you get embarrassed. They show up when you get joyful. They show up when you get sad. You know, you have physical manifestations of feelings. You assume the feeling of this wish being fulfilled. So what does it feel like within you to have this thing materialize? He makes a big case for creation itself, that you have really no control over the details. And you don't get to be a part of creation, he says, because creation is already complete. What you get to decide is what aspect of creation is going to manifest or materialize or show up into your life. That's what you get to do. You don't get to go out there and make mosquitoes or create flowers and all. All of that is being done by the great invisible Tao. What you get to decide is what extent of what is already being created and is part of creation that you are participating in, what share of it is going to manifest and be a part of your life. And you do this through the assumption of a feeling of a wish fulfilled. So that you imagine what it is that you would like to have or to be or to manifest. And you imagine this for yourself. And then what you do is you feel it in your body. And you ask yourself, what does it feel like?
Transform, going beyond your form. Listen to each thought, let it sink in, and begin putting it into practice, beginning now. Number 1, know in your heart that there is an invisible intelligence in everything. And you have the power to make contact with this divine intelligence and create a life of bliss. There is something divine that rolls through all things. You can't get a hold of it? A little seedling has treeness in it when it is put into the ground. You can't see treeness, you can't see the tree, yet you know it is in there. And same with you. You have greatness. You have an energy that is so powerful, and it flows through you and in everything that you come into contact with. Know it, begin to trust it, and you'll find yourself experiencing transformation in your life. Number 2, this is your sacred quest. The doorway to higher levels of awareness in your life opens inward. And most of us spend our lives facing the wrong way, looking outside of ourselves for the solutions to our problems. Where inward, in that silent, quiet, empty space within, is where the universal intelligence lies. It is where your essence as a human being is. Begin to look inward rather than outward each day. Number 3, become aware that there are no accidents in our intelligent universe. Realize that everything that shows up in your life has something to teach you. Appreciate everyone and everything in your life. You need to begin looking inward at who you are and why you are here, instead of outward at the physical world or anything in it. Make this a day of appreciation, a day of being in awe and bewilderment of everything that you come into contact with. Appreciate your liver. Appreciate your eyes. Appreciate your legs. Appreciate your mind. And everything that you come into contact with, instead of judging it, just appreciate it. Number 4, draw your inner energy from the beauty that surrounds you. When you do so, This energy reception will become a source of strength and sustenance in your life. As you begin practicing beauty appreciation and seeing it in all things that you encounter, including all people, as you begin to see the fullness of God in everyone rather than something to judge, you'll find a new kind of bliss in your everyday life. Number 5, be peaceful, experience silence, meditate, and really listen to God. The result will be that you will find the solution to each and every one of your problems, whether it be related to relationships or finances, health, or self-image, all within yourself. The peace and the quiet and the solitude all come from an understanding that God's one and only voice is silence, as Herman Melville reminded us. And if you can just be, even for one moment today, just peaceful and just go within, you're going to find a bliss that you perhaps didn't ever know before. Number 6, forgive yourself for your transgressions. See that mistakes are lessons for you to transcend. Release yourself from the tyranny of self-recrimination. Make the decision to be free. Everything that's ever happened to you in your life has happened for a reason. And when you are filled with an absence of self-forgiveness, and you're full of recriminations about what you did or shouldn't have done, or what you should have done, all of these kinds of things are really a message that you're sending to the universe saying, God's plan doesn't work and mine does. That's really an insidious thing to say. Everything that you've done or experienced is over, and you had something to learn from it. So forgive yourself and move on with your life. Number 7, write down this ancient truth and reread it on a daily basis. When you seek happiness for yourself, it will always elude you. When you seek happiness for others, you will find it yourself. Number 8, attempt to remove all enemies from your thoughts. The same intelligence that flows through you flows through all human beings. When you know that you are connected to all, you cannot fathom striking out at others, let alone feeling hatred for them. Or another way of saying this is, on a round planet, there's no choosing up sides. We all are here for a reason. We all have the same divine energy flowing through us. And when we stop thinking of ourselves as separate from everyone else, we begin to see and experience the love that we are here for in the first place. In my opinion, God doesn't want us to love God. God wants us to learn to love each other. That's what it means to be a holy being, to not have enemies, and to love each other. That's truly what loving God is about. Number 9, release everything that you have been told is impossible or unrealistic, and allow yourself the freedom to make your own contract with God about what is possible for you. Examine all of the doubts that you have about miracles and miracle workers, and replace the doubt with openness. Be open, and release everything that you hate.